maybe you sat down at the beginning of the year, you say, okay, this year we really need to invest. I'm like, yeah, we really have to, because we start learning financial, like, education, you have
Education and
having
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
financial education. I'm like, yeah, it's important to invest. So we have agreed, right? So are you happily married, single and searching, or single and not searching? You're in the right space. We're all students of life, and we're here to celebrate and explore the secrets of long-lasting relationships and marriages.
In each episode, we dive deep into topics like communication, family dynamics, parenting, finances, health, and wellness.
Join us on this exciting journey as we create stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling relationships, one episode at a time. Welcome to Life on Stereo. Hello, guys. It's a great opportunity to be here again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us once again on the couch, on the sofa, where we are open to learning, open to sharing with each other what we have learned over the years with our experiences in relationship, marriage, family, on this life journey, right? So today, well, first of all, we hope that you're doing well, whatever you're doing, whatever endeavor that you're engaged in. We really hope that you're doing well, and we hope the best for you. Let us know in the comment section what you guys are up to and how. Yeah.
We actually do hope that you found some of our earlier episodes useful. If you have, please do well to send us a message or give us a comment. Let us know how it's going. If we need to readjust and treat some topics, I think it would also be really good to discuss certain things that people are really interested in as well.
Relevant
Exactly.
to you.
So feel free to suggest some topics, and we'll just consider them in the next episodes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so today we are going to talk about what was it? Chasing dreams.
Yeah.
Talking about what you're doing. So
Chasing
today
dreams,
we're talking
goals,
about chasing dreams, goals, together and individually, how we can support each other, right? In life, we definitely have things that we all want to do individually or together. So that is what we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
And why we decided to talk about this today, of course, definitely we sit down and then we try to think about things that we have personally experienced in our union, and things that we think will be relevant to you. And for us, this is one of the things that came up. I remember, I'm going to give an example, right? Because sometimes in relationships, it could be that one person in the relationship feels at a point in time left behind in the goal chasing or goal achieving or dream achieving journey, right?
Yeah.
And I must say, for instance, when it comes to you and I, when you came to this country first and then I came to join you, right?
Yeah.
And when I was coming, of course, I knew, okay, I had to leave what I am doing in my home country and then come over here. And it's important to me because marriage is best when the two people are together. That is how it is, purposed, and that's the best for the marriage. So I did come wholeheartedly. And when I came, I knew that I have to, if I want to progress career-wise, I need to do certain things. And the first one was to learn the language. It's a new country, new language. I have to learn the language, right?
Yeah.
If I have to get a job. And even if I have to get a job, I know that there are different opportunities, right? And there are there's a specific kind of job that I wanted to have. And that meant that I have to go to school, and that takes time. That has taken time, right? And at a point in time, even though I know the end that I'm going towards, it feels long. It takes time. It takes years to get there. And in that process, when I look at you, I feel like you're doing well. Like you have your career, you have things that you're doing, side things that you're pursuing for yourself. And sometimes I did feel like, then what am I
A
up
bit
to?
left out, or
Right? Yeah, I feel
yeah.
that like, what am I up to? I remember there was a time a friend approached me and was encouraging me that don't feel stuck in your purpose. Like, he called it purpose depression, right? Where you feel so depressed about your purpose because you feel that maybe not the entirety of everything you want to do in your life, but a specific thing that you want to achieve, but the process feels so long and tiring
Right,
that
yeah.
you look at others and you feel that everyone is passing you by. So
That's quite interesting, right?
yeah,
Because I feel like, sometimes we think that, the mere fact that you're married to someone, and we say the two shall be one, you would think that whatever is going on for the other person, the other party should be 100%, overjoyed about. And
yeah,
I mean, definitely, I'm pretty sure you were happy for me that things were going
yeah,
on well,
definitely,
and so on. But we shouldn't be in denial of the fact that it's hard.
yeah,
It's hard, especially when the plans that you had before getting married, you probably had some, different plans or where
yeah,
you wanted to get to and so
yeah,
on. So yeah, that's
yeah,
that's quite
yeah. So that's kind of like having to sort of take a detour and map out what I want to do, and knowing that it takes time.
yeah.
From time to time that I'm feeling but then I'm reminded, it is towards a purpose, right?
Yeah.
So today we want to talk about maybe some things that we have done or we have learned we're implementing or even yet to implement, but we have
Exactly.
learned that we can share with you, that you can also use in your marriage, in your relationship, so that you can both achieve your dreams and achieve your goals, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing I want us to talk about is setting the goals themselves, right? And when it comes to setting the goals, like I was saying, I know, okay, I want to get to this point.
Yeah.
So individually, I am writing down, or I am picturing or envisioning where I want to get to.
Yeah.
So that is me as an individual. Even though I am married to him, individually, I am sitting down and say, this is the point I want to get to in my career.
Yeah.
And this is the next step or steps that I need to take to get there, right? And then I'm sure you are doing the same, right? You're also doing the same,
Yeah,
saying,
my
okay,
individual,
I need to do this. So for instance, I said, okay, I need to further my education. It's going to take a couple of years. You also wanted to further your education, right?
Yeah.
And individually, we've done that. Now we come together and we say, what are our goals? We sit down and say, what are our goals together? So setting the goals together, then we see that, okay, how do we mesh our individual goals in such a way that there is a seamless flow, right? Everyone is in the flow together, and everyone is working parallel towards our individual goals, which is then our collective goal.
Yeah, but then I think it's also quite important to distinguish
Yeah.
those individual goals and collective goal. People think, or a lot of people I've spoken to say that, oh, when you get into a marriage, you should have one vision, or you should have the same goals.
Yeah.
Let's be real, everyone is actually better for, in my opinion, for people to have their individual goals. But when it comes to that collective goal or vision, it has to do with things that pertains to the marriage. For example, of course, that also bleeds into our personal lives.
Yeah.
For example, a joint vision could be, do we want to have kids? How many kids do we want to have?
Yes.
Where would we want to stay?
Yes.
What kind of education would we want our kids to have?
Yeah.
Now, based on some of these decisions, based on a decision like where do we want to stay, what kind of education, could actually influence then our individual goals need to be realigned because of these joint goals, because of some of these goals you might have to go into a different line of profession to have more time for the family, or to make more money to take care of some things, so it's I think it's a very important thing for the individual goals to be clear and known by both parties.
Yeah, and I want to give an example, because I think when I did apply for a school to go back to school to further my education, and then COVID hit, right? Of course, I got pregnant, and then I gave birth to our first child, and then of course she was growing, so I decided to apply for school. And let's look at this. The school was in the city that we were in, but now COVID hit. And then almost after a year, you got a job in another city. So even though my goal is to go to school, I had to apply to a different school in a different city because we're moving to that city. So my goal is the same, but then I had to adjust. And I could only adjust because we had to come to one page and say, okay, the school is important to you, but he needs a job, because while I am going to school, I can not bring in any income or very little income, right?
Yeah.
So how do we take a decision together such that we're still following our dreams? However, we are doing it in a way that works for the family,
Exactly.
for the marriage, right?
So that synergy between our individual goals and that joint collective goal as a family is really important, and there has to be a good balance. It shouldn't be that the family, one person is always having to sacrifice for the sake of the family goals, where the other person is always like cruising and so on. It breeds some tension which is not really needed in relationships.
Yeah. So let's set the goals. And in setting the goals, that means we need to be intentional, right? If you're setting your personal goals individually, now we need to find time to sit together as a team and see what are our goals. So we need to schedule time. And I say that this scheduling of time, some people are more inclined to be structured, so they'll maybe take a book, take a pen, take a journal, and they'll put down their goals on paper, and that is perfect, and that is a good and constructive way to go, right? Some people are not necessarily like that. They have everything in their head, like I want to do this. So, but regardless, we need to find time to talk about what we're doing.
Exactly.
We need to find time to be on the same page. And there are recommendations. Okay, it could be weekly. So you could say, okay, in a week, we sit down once a week to talk about what we're each up to. So if you think that you might forget and you don't want to overlook what is happening, you can say, okay, this particular time in the week, we sit down and then we talk about our plans, right? Or it could be monthly. If weekly is just too much, it could be monthly.
Monthly as well. I mean, whatever works for you, right?
Whatever works for you.
By all means, it's important to have that conversation. I would say, I know people like to keep stuff in their head, but I would highly recommend writing them down.
Yeah.
Because you remember, like usually, like when we at the end of the year, we write our goals for the year, which you could call New Year resolutions, right? And the way we do it is we categorize them into different areas, like family, ministry, finance, career, and so on, education. So we have these categories and we review them periodically. I think sometimes we forget, and maybe like by the time we have done like 6 months, we have a review, and then we look at it and we're like, oh, we're actually on track, or maybe we should, we're probably lagging in this area. If we had not written those and we just try to keep them in our heads, we may remember like half of them, or even less. So I'd really recommend that you write it down, use that as an agenda for the discussion. It doesn't have to be something like a formal meeting or anything like that, but it's just a check-in. Of course, like on a daily, you are always asking how each other is doing and so on. But by all means, have a place where you share, and we use like Apple notes, right?
Simple as that.
And it's shared, so what you can put stuff in, I can put stuff in.
Yeah.
I can see what's going on there, and I think it works.
I think that this is a simple but quite useful way for us, right? Because it is shared, it is a shared document, and so he has access, I have access. If I have anything, if there are any changes to something I'm doing, I just go in there and then I make some changes, and then he gets to see it.
I get an alert that you're making changes.
He gets an alert, right? And I was gonna say something. Oh, I hope I don't forget. Yeah, anyway, so it's shared, so that even if maybe you've scheduled to sit once a month to talk about things, in the span of that 1 month, a lot can happen, right? So as the month is going on, you're putting it in the shared document, and you can each have a look at it. But again, for us, for instance, like sometimes you're sitting in the living room and then you're working on something. I'm like, hey, what are you working on? So even that is a form of check-in, right? I'm like, hey, what are you working on? And he was like, oh, maybe I'm editing for my YouTube. And I was like, okay, how is it going? Like, and he would be telling me like, oh, it's going like this. I'm planning to do this. So in that kind of chit chat conversation, we're still checking in. But definitely there should be a specific time where you say, okay, we haven't checked in for a long time. We need to know what is going on. We need to be on one page. Then in that way, you also make room for each other. And then making room, I want us to talk about like finances, because finances can be a huge part of making room for each other's dreams and goals, right? Like money-wise, because a lot of things that we want to do, not all of them, but many of the things that we want to pursue involves financial commitment. So
almost everything, like I mean, what I can say is it's really important that when it comes to finances, you and again, being on the same page is very necessary,
vital,
very important, because mind you, the finances of like the money you make, the money I make, that kind of talk is no longer at play when it comes to marriage. It's the money we make. And if we are to use it to sponsor one of our goals, we may think that it's like a family goal, but of course, it's quite easy when we are using it to sponsor, like taking care of the kids and so on. That's like a joint thing, right? But if like I have a hobby, I've suddenly developed a hobby,
an expensive hobby.
I want to really start playing lawn tennis, you know, while like I've never done that before. Depending on the country you're in, that could be an expensive thing to do. So then at that point, there has to be that conversation. How are we going to do it? What's really, it's how are we going to take care of it? And by making you be on that same page, then it's not going to bring any tensions. But if we don't do that, it doesn't matter who is making more money and or what. That's going to be a problem, and we've seen it happen. You know, many times we see them in movies, we hear them in personal stories as well.
And even for us, like I think that we've had moments where in my head I'm like for instance, we say, okay, we want to do this. Maybe my husband says, okay, babe, for our YouTube I need to get a few things, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's good, like you should get some things, you know, to help with it. And then maybe he goes and gets, I see the things coming, I'm like, hey, how much does this cost? How much does this cost? Like, okay, you didn't tell me how much this one costs and this one costs. Like, does it affect, like,
don't ask, don't tell.
Well,
but that shouldn't be the case, right?
So sometimes even the details, right, the in between can be a bit tricky. So transparency, full transparency is so important.
Those goals,
for example, you say, okay, maybe you sat down at the beginning of the year, you say, okay, this year we really need to invest. I'm like, yeah, we really have to, because we start learning financial, like, education, you have
Education and
having
stuff. Yeah,
financial education, like, yeah, it's important to invest. So we have agreed, right? So that's one example. You have agreed that you invest.
yeah.
Now, for me, like this, I say, okay, maybe you take the responsibility of doing the investment. We say, okay, maybe 5% of our household income goes to investment. So you make sure that you put it in a investment account. But maybe what if along the line, some changes have come, we've made some losses, you want to shift some amount in there to move things around.
Yeah.
You need to come back to tell me, right? So don't go on the tangent that,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean,
we
yeah.
agreed that I take care of the investment and I'm investing the money, let me invest the money. We need to come back, and that is why regular check-in
Yeah.
with our goals is very important.
I mean, if by all means, if you're taking a decision that affects the other party,
Yeah.
and in a marriage, even if that decision affects just you, it still
Yes.
affects the other party anyway.
Definitely. I
So
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's important to be fully transparent. Um, it's important to budget together as a
Yeah.
family, decide what money goes where, decide what money is at like each other's disposal to do whatever they want to do with it. That's
Yes.
important as well.
Yeah.
Decide, okay, you have this to do whatever you want. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna no one, we don't need to go into the details of that, but this X amount goes here and that's that. And when we are taking care of things, we take care of things together.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, full transparency, being on one page, and making sure that the details are really spoken about
Yeah.
early on. Yeah.
So in a way, we're basically talking about like open conversation, like very clear communication,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
we must say, for me, I feel that communication is a lifelong kind of learn. It's a skill that you learn all your life, right? There is always room
Yeah.
for more. There is always room to improve how you communicate. We are two different individuals, and
Yeah.
there are many times where, even today, for instance, like I made a statement and you're like, you made a statement and I wasn't so happy with the way you made it, and it rubbed me in the wrong way. And then when I told you about it later, you were like, I didn't even mean it like that, right? So communication is
Yeah.
like, it's a lifelong kind of
Yeah,
learning.
yeah.
We are always learning how to communicate, but at least talk about it. Like, let's check in from time to time, so that one person doesn't sit in their corner and make up things in their head about what is happening.
Yeah.
Because maybe, for instance, there are times where, like, I would say, for instance, my dad, right? Though many times my dad is passed on so many years ago, and I can feel that there were many times where maybe there wasn't transparent. Even sometimes with your children, if your children are of a good age, you can even have communication or discussions about what the family finances are.
Yeah.
And because when I remember that we didn't know what was going on so
yeah.
much, so there, it leaves so much room for you to have so many stories. And for all we knew, he did not even have it as much as we thought he
yeah.
had it, right?
That's
But
always the case,
because
yeah.
there wasn't anything shared, he gave so much room for misinterpretation, right? And you don't want that in your marriage. You always want to be on the same page. And I must say, when it comes to finances and being fully transparent, sometimes you really have to humble yourself, because you have been independent all your life, right? And now you have to be fully transparent with someone else.
Yeah.
You have to intentionally develop that muscle, right? It might not come so easily to you, like opening your, hey, like, babe, this came in today. You have to develop that muscle. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously it depends it's on an individual thing, right? If you have two parties who lived a considerable amount of life on their own, managing their own finances,
Yeah.
doing whatever they want with their money,
Yeah.
and they come together, that dynamic is like it's a bit more challenging because
Yeah, it
you
can
have to
be.
learn to actually agree with someone to spend your money and so on. But then if you married very early, you probably just started working and so on, that might be like a might not be a steep curve as as the other one, but
Yeah.
by all means, it's important to actually know that it's a process.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about communication, one thing that came to mind was that don't make assumptions when it comes to communication. I think, yeah, I've had issues with when I someone sends a text message and I read it. Even you send a text message and I read it, and the tone, I'll read it in a certain tone. But then the other person might read it very calmly,
Yeah.
So they probably mean it in a different way. So
Give an example. For instance, maybe there is already a little bit of friction in the house.
Right, yeah.
Right. And the person maybe sends you, oh, babe, did you see my tie or my keys? Have you seen my keys or something? And then the text back, no, I haven't, right? So because there's already friction in the house, maybe when you get a text, is this how she's saying
why
that?
you say, no,
I haven't
haven't.
seen it.
Yeah,
But maybe I actually said, oh, I haven't seen it. Very
Exactly.
softly. But,
exactly.
so assumptions are, yeah.
So it's very important to, if you're unsure, clarify. Ask
Yes.
the person,
Yes.
what did you intend
mean
by
by
saying
this?
this?
Yeah.
Let them explain to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's this conversation I have really, I mean, while talking, I've actually learned a thing or two from it, when it comes to setting goals together. But it's also important to know that while we set goals, we may set the goals and may drift off a bit.
Yeah.
We may not meet that target. So how do we help each other to bring each other back to to be a check on each other to bring us back in line? I think that would be something interesting
And
to think of.
in line with that, again, communication, right? Regular check-in, because when we check in, and again, like you mentioned, if we have these goals written down, then we can refer to them and say, how far have we gone with this? Like, do we need to put more effort here in this season? Do we need to prioritize this more so we can get there faster? And I would say that there is a popular thing, SMART goals, right? Setting specific goals. So don't just say, for instance, like this year we want to be financially prudent. Like, how prudent do you want to be? Okay, we need to set specific goals. What are they? Okay, this year we want to be able to save 10% of our household income, want to be able to invest 15% of our house. So those are like specific. And the next one is what? The M, SMART. Specific, measurable. When they are specific, you can measure how much you're actually doing. 15%, have I been able to
and
put
if it's
aside?
not, you will know. So that's very easy to
Yeah.
And then they should be attainable.
The A is attainable. Don't set goals that are like
you can't
high and mighty.
And then it starts to stress you out.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So
you
specific.
know what you can achieve. Of
within
course,
your
by
reach.
all means,
Challenge yourself.
Don't do things only in your comfort zone and so on. But let it be attainable, something that you can really achieve within the time period. Yeah. And what's the R?
R is relevant. So is it relevant to you? Is it relevant to you? So don't look at other people's relationship on social media, TikTok, like everywhere, and say, oh, they are doing this, we are also doing this. See what is relevant for your relationship, for your marriage, for your family.
Yeah.
And then set those goals for your family and your vision and where you want to get to.
Yeah.
And the T is time bound, right? Again, don't compare yourself to how fast or how slow someone is reaching their goals. See what you can achieve in what time frame or what time span that is favorable for your family and your, means. And I also want to say flexibility. Be flexible, be teachable, right?
Yeah.
Because when you set goals, things happen, life happens, and you need to be gracious to yourself, have grace for yourself, so that, for instance, if you have set goals together and maybe there is a part that one party is supposed to play and you feel the person is not playing to help the goals actualize, be gracious towards that person, right? Be patient with them. Remind them. See how best you can support them, encourage them to get back on track. Don't put them down with your words, with your looks, Don't do that. And don't hold in resentment, like Kingsley was saying. Speak with each other, be open. And you said something. Oh, I've forgotten. Anyway, so don't hold in the resentment. Don't assume.
Don't assume.
Yes. Because sometimes you set goals and one party is supposed to, you assume that they don't care. They probably don't care, right? Because it's not about them or it doesn't affect them so much. Maybe don't care. You might be assuming for all you know. Talk to your partner about it. Babe, we said that we're going to do this. I'm not seeing. Is there anything that is hindering you from doing it? Is there any way I can support you to get it done? And then we are on track.
Yeah.
I
think I think we've talked on quite a lot of things. I might have to replay this episode myself to
do that.
to listen to some of the things that we've discussed. Sometimes when we are talking, things just come into mind.
Definitely.
And then they are definitely, when it comes to setting goals, the bottom line is do it together.
Set goals, individual, collective goals, make room for each other, communicate, budgets together. You may drift, come back, realign, and Norwegians say, Sherpa, drive on. Move on. Okay.
Thanks, guys, for joining us in this episode. Do well to put your comments down. How do you set your goals in your family or in your personal life?
What has worked for you?
What are some of the challenges that you have faced while dealing with goal setting and achieving them within the time frame that you've always hoped to? Let us know in the comments and let's get talking. Thanks for joining us in today's episode.
See you in the next episode.
One.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Live on Stereo. We hope you found our conversation insightful and inspiring.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share, or leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. See you in the next episode.